What up, though, my afro? It's your boy Tone 202. Oh, man. And I just want to, say my piece. I know it seems like I'm complaining, but I'm just bringing up some valid points about what we watched today and how we are perceived. Um, in a world, especially in a country, that touts equality and that is often talking about how, you know, they're trying to put away with racism and, trying to look at every nationality as an equal nationality, but nonetheless, the depictions that they put out there clearly do not have black people is equal to white people. Now, let's just go into Watchmen. So I was looking at this, I watched the end of the series. Big ups to Regina King. And for the most part, I liked it. It almost got a little too convoluted. And the reason is because there's a lot of going back in history and then coming forth and in timelines, and that can get confusing. Sometimes you just want to see, the show, but when you have too many flashbacks and too many timelines you're trying to catch up to, and you're constantly doing it, it's just like, okay, what reality are we in? Now, let's get to my main point. Dr. whatever his name was, the big blue guy, uh, John, right? At first, they said that John could not put himself in a human body. He could not be human. And then, at the ending of the episodes, John not only puts himself into a human body, he totally forgets that he is, the baddest man ever in the history of man, and that no one can do anything to him he doesn't want done to him. So he gets this from Adrian. Adrian, the mastermind who dropped the giant squid on top of, New York and killed 3 million people. Squid's supposed to be from another dimension. Turns out it wasn't from another dimension, even though, where did you get a giant squid from? That's for one thing. Where did you get a giant squid from? And then those squids that they had, he was able. And how were you manufacturing these squids? So these squids were. There's a lot of unanswered questions. But anyways, so let's get to John. So John is the big blue guy. I forgot what his name was. Doctor Manhattan. There it is. He's Doctor Manhattan. First, he's a white dude, Doctor Manhattan, and then he's a black guy, Doctor Manhattan. He's clearly a black man. Him and Regina are married for 10 years, and then people know who he is because he emits uh, certain type of radiation or whatever, and they're able to find out where Dr. Manhattan is simply by following, where's the most irradiated area and or tachyon particles or whatever he gives off, and they're able to trace him because he has a signature, and that was totally cool on a science level. You followed him, you found out who his signature was, boom, you marked him down. But not only did the smartest woman in the world do it, a bunch of country boys was able to do the same thing. So you didn't have to be brilliant to figure out who Dr. Manhattan was, but you had to be brilliant to figure out how to get Dr. Manhattan's abilities. So boom, they both had the same idea. We're gonna trap Dr. Manhattan, we're gonna take his power, and we're gonna use it for white supremacy. That was for one. The other woman was like, we're gonna trap Dr. Manhattan, we're gonna siphon off his powers, we're gonna put it into me, and I'm gonna cure everything. But everybody, she is a narcissist, and everybody would have been bowing down to her. She would have been queen of any and everything in the galaxy. And they were just like, we can't let that happen. You're a little too crazy. She had a good idea, but it was a bad idea. And then turns out Dr. Manhattan had the ability to give his power to other people. And Regina King was asking him at the dinner table, or when they first met, she said, so could you give your power to other people? And he said, I can put my power into an object that is not necessarily a human, but so he put it into an egg. He said, I can put my ability into an object, and if somebody digests that object, then they can have my powers. They could be able to walk on water. Then they alluded to that when she had to actually kill the body of Dr. Manhattan to wake him up from his slumber. He wakes up and she's like, John, we're in trouble. Then he starts glowing blue, and then he walks out. His walkout. He vanishes outside to where their pool is, and he's walking on water. And she says, why are you out here walking on water? He says, because you need to see me walking on water. All right, there it is. Nonetheless, she tells him there are people out here, or there are people who are coming to get us. He's like, they're already here. So there are the country boys out there, the white supremacy guys with the Rorschach mask on. And another thing, why the Rorschach mask? Rorschach was not a, hey, what's going on? Rorschach was not a racist. 40 years ago, he was not a racist, so why the Rorschach mask? Nonetheless, so what they do is, he says they're already here. He's like, there's nothing I can do about it, and this is what got me. Why? You're Dr. Manhattan. Why are you saying there's nothing you can do about it? And I'm thinking, do you want to pass on your power? I'm thinking, in order for him to say there's nothing I can do about it, because he kept saying he loved her, is it in order for one Dr. Manhattan to survive, another one, like, one has to die? Like, there can't be two people with the same ability as Dr. Manhattan? Because that's the only way I can see him giving up his power and just not disappearing and going to the Europa moon. Why didn't he just leave? He's like, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm like, I'm stuck now. You're Dr. Manhattan. So Regina King, Sister Knight, she's like, there's something I can do about it. She loads up her guns, goes outside, she starts blasting supremacists away. She gets out there, gets into a fight, goes at it. Finally, they stop her. They're getting ready to bust her down. He shows up, boom. He starts zapping white dudes. Boom, boom, boom. Zaps them all. And then the actual device that they had, because Regina's like, we won. He was like, no, actually, we didn't. The machine was on the back of the truck, and it actually comes on and zaps him, takes him away. And then they're in a warehouse or whatever, where the leaders of the Cyclops, which is a supremacy group, are, and they're all waiting for the mayor, who was the leader of this group, to take John's power, siphon it into him, so he can become the big blue guy. Well, for one, I'm like, this is Dr. Manhattan. Why is he on his knees? Why? Why is he sitting there on his knees? Why? Why? Because the first Dr. Manhattan, anything like, you never saw him on his knees. You never saw him with his head down. When he when he came back and he was Dr. Manhattan, he was a badass. He did not care about anything, to the point where he actually left the damn planet. He went to the Europa moon and was just like, this is where I'm going to be. He went to Mars and was chilling out. He just wanted to look at Mars. Built a huge ship, even took his girl there with him, and was just like, let me show you, like, how time is a construct and how I'm everywhere and anywhere at once. Like, just a bad ass. When they wanted him to stop the war in Vietnam, he went to Vietnam and started kicking ass. People start blowing up everywhere because Dr. Manhattan starts shooting lasers out of his damn hands. He was taking whole military equipment and just breaking them apart, like The Expanse, like the if you guys ever saw The Expanse. like the blue goo did to the spaceships in the Expanse, anyways. So he was devastating everything, and then he just got sick of humanity and left. Then he comes back as a black man. Well, he comes back and falls in love with Regina King. And here I don't get it because his girlfriend is playing by an older woman now. Of course, she's in her 60s now. His he was already in love with someone, right? And she was trying to understand his mind, right? If you ever saw Watchmen, any relationship he had with that woman, it was like she was trying to understand him, but she couldn't understand him. And he got to the point where he just didn't care. So I am completely lost on why he came back, fell in love with Regina King, and nothing wrong with that. She's beautiful. But why did you come back and then allow yourself to die? Just to pass on your power to somebody else? Just to show that you can pass on your power? I'm not having it. I'm not having it at all. And then why you die on your knees? And this is what he said. He zaps away Regina King's Sister Knight's friend, zaps them away, sends them somewhere else so they can help, right? Adrian, his ex-girlfriend, and the dude with the thing on to protect himself from the tinfoil thing, He zaps them away, and she was like, well, why didn't you zap me away? He said, because I didn't want to die alone. He knew he was going to die. I don't get this. The only reason why I can see him actually giving up his power is simply because he got bored, and he just, because he went to the Europa moon and played God. He created humans. He created a whole this dome that has its own atmosphere where humans could live. It was a completely peaceful place, of course, until Adrian. He zapped Adrian up there, and so I don't get it. There's just look. I'm hoping that they do another series like this. It isn't over, but it just pissed me off the way he died. Like, you can't be the baddest person ever. You can't be 5 seconds from God and you're going to die on your knees. No, I'm not. Like, it just, especially with all he went through. Listen, here's his, okay. Dr. Manhattan went and had a conversation with Regina King's or Sister Knight's grandfather. Found out who his grandfather really was. His grandfather was a superhero, right? His grandfather was the first superhero, Hooded Justice. The reason why he became Hooded Justice is because he wanted to be a cop. He saw a movie in a theater. Well, okay, so he was into movies because his mother used to play the piano while the movie was going, right? So that was her job. Silent movies, they were silent. So all you heard was music, but it was live music. It was somebody playing a piano. Bam, 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 bam. That type of thing. So they're playing, she was the one who's playing the music. That was her job. So her son would sit there and watch the movies, watch the silent movies. And he became fixated upon one person who was the sheriff, who was a black sheriff of Oklahoma or whatever. So he's like, I'm going to be a cop. All right. So he's like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a cop. So he decides he wants to be a cop. Of course, he's a cop, and it's in the 20s or whatever it was. And when he was a cop, of course, racism, just like it is now, but it's even more blatant then. And, they wouldn't even shake his hand. They didn't even want to acknowledge him. But nonetheless, okay, you're a cop. So, of course, what did the, white cops do? They go and whoop his ass just because they felt like it. They're dragging black people through the streets behind their cars. It just, when I saw that, I almost didn't want to watch the series again. But when you're watching these shows, you got to realize there's going to be a lot of harsh reality to these shows. And, of course, it made me angry to see that. And this is the point. It would make any black person and other people angry just to see half of what they saw on the show. And I'm thinking, in this reality, You made Dr. Manhattan a black man. You made Dr. Manhattan fall in love with a black woman whose parents were blown up because of a war that was started by white people. The grandfather's parents died because they lived in Oklahoma during Black Wall Street. So they were slaughtered right in front of them. Everyone in that town was slaughtered, which this actually did happen. Black Wall Street did happen, and 3,000 people were killed. This really did happen. So, with all that really did happen because of white people. It actually was because of a white woman. A white woman said a black man whistled at her and said something to her, just like Medgar Evers. And when she said that, the white boys went crazy and killed and burned that place down. They were looking for an excuse because it was a thriving community and it was black only. And they were just like, nope, we're not having that. So nonetheless, they tore the whole place down. This really happened in real history. This is a real thing. It really happened. And if you had the same anger that every black person, well, anyone who knows about it and sympathizes with that whole situation, because it was ugly, they tore those people up. They did them something. I mean, it was Rosewood and Seneca Village. Well, Seneca Village, they didn't tear them down. They just tore the place up. They just told everybody they had to leave because they had domain. I forgot what it's called. Anyway, they came out with something corny and went in there and kicked everybody out. But Seneca Village actually had Irish people living there too. It was only 75% black, but it was a thriving black community, so they kicked everybody out. But nonetheless, and that's in New York. But nonetheless, with all this knowledge that Dr. Manhattan had, and he caught feelings, he was like, I love you. He told her he loved her. Wouldn't he go and not only destroy, I mean, listen, all the supremacists and the head of the supremacy group, they all died. Okay? He must have saw that coming. They all died. So I understand that. And the one who wanted to turn himself into him actually turned into just like a red gelatin. I mean, his body just, it was beautiful what happened. But nonetheless, you would think with that power, if you gave that power to any angry black man about racism, what do you think would happen? I mean, in the reality that they built, with a clear conscious mind, what do you think will happen? Nonetheless, you gave that power to Regina King, who is the granddaughter of someone who's fighting against racism. What do you expect to happen? Like, why didn't Dr. Manhattan would have wiped out half the people on the planet? That's what he would have done. He would have wiped out any racist person. Any. Any black racist person, white, Asian, he wouldn't care. He'd be like, if you have a single racist thought in your mind where you hate other people, he would start wiping you out. That's what he would have done. That's really what he would have done. And that would have been it. And it was like either love each other or die right now. That's your choice. But he would have tore the hell out of white people. And that would have been that. If you would give any black man that type of power, the power of a god, you think black people haven't been praying to God for the longest to stop racism, to stop us from being hung? How many people got hung in the last few months? 5, 6? Hung. This is 2020. 5 people were hung within the last couple months. 5 men. 5 black men in 2020. Hung. It's like something out of the freaking 1800s. It's 2020, and they're still hanging black men today. Nah, I'm not having that. I'm not having that at all. I'm not having that. They would have gave any angry black man that ability. There would have been a lot more than just a few people dead. It'd have been a lot dead. Hell, Adrian killed 3 million people when he dropped the squid on top of everyone. Anyways, I just wanted to rant about that. Like, these people are writing these stories, but they're trying to make them somewhat digestible, but they're still making black people look bad. And you got the woman looking like a heroine, and okay, fine, whatever, women are powerful, whatever. But you got the black man, even the most powerful black man, still looking like a weak ass person. It's no. You know what? I need to stop complaining, and I need to start writing. I need to start writing. That's all there's to it. I need to start writing again. The book I wrote, The Sorrow King, nobody read it. But I need to start writing. That's what I need to do. I need to stop complaining about the nonsense and the corniness that people do. Like, they get up to, okay, like, I tried to digest, what's my man, what's his name? Iron Fist. I tried to watch Iron Fist, but it was too white. It was too corny. It was too diluted. And the only reason why it was even partially good is because of the Defenders themselves when they all came together. I was like, okay, I can watch the Defenders. And I can watch everybody else's origin story. But Danny Rand, it was just too corny. And I was just, waiting for him and Luke to get together. Because Danny Rand, actually, in the comic books, is a bad boy. But nonetheless, they had a scene where him and Elektra's supposed to be this badass ninja. Elektra comes out. She's supposed to be on his side. They become lovers. Then she gets hypnotized. And the Hand comes out, the clan of the Hand. And they're all trying to stop him from fighting this dragon. And Elektra is going to get ready to go up again. She's surrounded by all these badass fighters. And you hear boom. And the lights go out. And it comes back on and everybody's dead. She's standing there. I hate that. That is laziness. I just need to write. I'm not the best with grammar, but I got a great imagination. I need to start writing again. And I really don't like writing things in the human experience. I like creating characters, and just making up stuff. It just gives you more room and more space, so you don't become cliche. But just these people's writing just, and I understand sometimes you can't write stuff and then adapt it to the movies and it becomes a good adaptation. I get that 100%. And I get, like Lord of the Rings wasn't a good, no, Lord of the Rings was a good adaptation, but there's a part of Lord of the Rings that people don't even know about, and I wish Peter Jackson would have came back and did it. I wanted them to talk about the gods that created Gandalf, because Gandalf and the other 7 wizards, they weren't regular humans. So I was just like, yeah, we're looking at this ring and we're looking at, Sauron or whoever he is, but you guys aren't really talking about how they became who they were. You know what I'm saying? Celebrimbor and all those guys. Like, let's go back to at least go back to Celebrimbor, the guy who actually made the rings, and how he got tricked by Sauron into making the rings. Like, go back to those times where the elves were getting slaughtered, and they even mentioned some of it because Gandalf was talking about how the orcs. He said, "Do you know who they were?" And he said, "They used to be elves." Like, what happened to them? Like, go back to that, and talk about like the huge spider that was killed, and that wasn't just some ordinary spider. and that spider wasn't even killed by Sting and the Light of Gladriel or whatever. A spider wasn't killed by them. That spider actually died in the books by eating herself because she became a glutton. All she wanted to do was eat, 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 and it was actually a she who could turn herself back into human form. She was actually one of these. She was made up by one of these gods. So there's a lot that's going on, even in that. I would like to see. So I'm just like, okay, you guys did. I mean, Lord of the Rings was good, but I would have liked to see more out of Lord of the Rings myself. But I don't know if it'll ever be done because of a budget and do people want to see it. But they could also do an animation version of that, and it would be pretty damn good, but at least tell the story. But you have to go and have to read some of these stories in order, because listen, even in Lord of the Rings, okay, Gandalf is afraid of only one thing. So Gandalf fights the one thing he's afraid of, which was I almost said an Aurochs, but that's not what an Aurochs is. It's a I forgot what it is. It's that demon, big old demon thing. Well, they said the elves dug too deep, or not the elves, the dwarves dug too deep, and this thing, came out of the ground. For one, they was trying to present it like there was only one of those things. No, there was a whole bunch of them. Like there was a whole bunch of these demon things that used to run around and just torch elves. That's what they did. But there were some elves who were just so powerful that they could fight one of these things by themselves. Like show that. Like I would love to see that fight. You know what I'm saying? There were elves that were just badass and would run up against one of them fire gods and light their ass up with a sword. So it would actually be a fair fight. It wouldn't just be you guys running from this thing. It would be a fair fight, and they would get into it. But Gandalf fought one, and I was glad they did show that. So there's just a lot of adaptations to TV and movies that you're not in the budget, so you don't know the budget, so you really can't complain too much about it. But you can say, okay, I think this is wrong, and this should not be depicted as such. And that's my whole thing. They just depict black men as weaklings. I mean, in the whole Watchmen series, we were just weak, and I'm just like, no, no way. And I'm noticing a lot of this on a lot of these shows, how you could even have a black man kicking ass. They even talked about how the grandfather, when he was kicking ass, he had super strength, which he didn't have super strength. He was just stronger than the people who his opponents. He was just stronger than them. So they try to give you all this credit, but yet they have a scene where he's screwing a white man. Why? 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 It had no significance whatsoever. It had none. It had none whatsoever. None. None. The likelihood of that happening back then is very, very unlikely. It had no significance whatsoever. Why cut to a scene where he's screwing a white man? Why? And like, I would love to talk to these writers and go, what significance does this have? You could have showed them in an alley getting ready to stop, somebody from committing an injustice, and we would have got it. They hung out together. It just, I don't know. It bothered me so much just to invite that into the story and make the black man look weaker. And I'm just tired of it. I am. I don't know. I just am. So that's my diatribe. It just bothered me. There's a lot of other shows I could talk about. Uh, you guys probably don't want to hear that, but there's a lot of books that I might start reading too on some of this. But I don't want my. See, here's the one thing is like I have a lot of comic books. You guys might not know that, but I got a couple hundred comic books. I stopped reading comic books a long time because it wasn't reality. And I was getting hooked on something that wasn't real. And I was like, none of this is real. I need to stick to the real world where I could, anything could happen and get out of the fantasy world. Not unless I'm going to start writing about the fantasy world. Now that I can understand. But I said, no, I'm not going to. So I gave up comic books, I don't know, some 15 years ago. Just stopped reading them, stopped buying them. But I didn't get rid of the ones I had because I still love a good story. And I noticed that the graphic novels were so much better. Like the X-Men. The graphic novels for X-Men, the paperbacks, they're like this thick, were so detailed and so good, and they explain in depth people's powers, where they came from, not only when they manifested. They would break things down to a scientific level. There were, and they were talking about how the city of New York was being taken over by mutants, right? And there was a war, mutant on mutant, in New York. And the X-Men didn't come in and save the day. There were a lot of people who had very deadly powers. And then they would focus on, like, everyone. Like Amelia Voigt. She was working for the Archelites. The Archelites are a group of dangerous mutants who follow Magneto. Well, these mutants were lethal to the point where they were taking regular people. Like, she got into it with a regular woman said something to Voight she did not like. Voight's ability is she can teleport you anywhere that she wants. So she teleported her to a skyscraper, except the girl was in midair above the skyscraper, and she let her go. And that woman fell, 60 floors. So the toad would eat you. Like, this dude is no joke. This dude was eating people like the Juggernaut was smashing people's faces in. I mean, it just got very real. So you see a watered down version in the movies and stuff like that. But when you read the paperbacks, you're just like, oh. Especially if you read Batman, you got to prepare yourself for that. But when you start getting into who the X-Men are and all the stuff that they're really up against, some of the writing is so good, you just wish it was in the movie. But you know that they can't put it in the movie. They can't put that in the movie. It's just not going to happen. They got one comic book on the X-Men where Wolverine is hypnotized by somebody played a trick with his mind, and he went in and killed all the X-Men. He just slaughtered them. You know, he just went in and slaughtered all the X-Men. But they'll never show you that. You know what I'm saying? They'll never show you it like you want to see it. The blood and gore that you want to see, but they show you watered down versions. So I just wanted to talk about that. And people's perception. Perception is everything. So when you look at some of these shows, you're going, why are they depicting an individual like this or a group of individuals like this? Like, why are they doing that? Like in Watchmen, the reason why I started watching Watchmen is because they were superheroes. Some people, okay. In Watchmen, it seemed like everybody was normal. And the people who were superhuman, the people who were crime fighters, they were normal people who decided to fight crime. But that's not all true. Now, Dr. Manhattan is the only one that you think had powers. No. Adrian also had powers. Adrian had super speed, and he was super strong. And he was super smart. Now, of course, there's a limit to his strength, But Adrian had the ability to stop a bullet, and he also did it in the Watchmen series. Even though he's up in age, he stopped the bullet. So Adrian had super speed. He was super strong. You see the way he beat up the comedian like it was nothing, and he bragged about how fast he is. So that's what made me interested in it. It was like I want to see the superpower. I like to see normal people, fight too. But I wanted to see who had superpower and how they had superpower. It wasn't just martial arts butt kicking. Now, some people who had superpowers they didn't really show or they didn't really talk about. The one dude who had superpowers in the Watchmen series is Looking Glass. Looking Glass had I mean, it's a small superpower, but it can be deadly. It can it can't be deadly. Well, it can be. He had the power to tell if you were lying or not. And of course, everybody wished they could do that. But he could do that. He could just simply, and people was hiring him for focus groups. And he would look at focus groups and listen to them. And then the people who was making commercials and cereals and all this, they would say, sit behind this glass. We want you to tell us, are these people lying to us or not when we introduce our cereal or introduce this commercial? And he would say, all those people said they loved it, but they were all lying. So you could not lie to Looking Glass. And I like the way they displayed that all through the series. But they didn't really say, okay, this is his superpower. I guess you didn't really have to say it. But nonetheless, how did he get his superpowers? Here's the thing. He was in the blast area when 3 million people died because of the squid, right? When the squid fell down, the giant squid fell down because not because of a portal, but simply because of an ability to port one thing to another. It wasn't a portal that happened from another dimension. It was just a portal from one area to another. And we actually have those here. But nonetheless, where the giant squid come from, we still don't know. We know where it came from, but we don't know where it came from. Like, are there giant squids? Like, where did you get that from, Adrian? Where did you get a squid the size of, a 30-story building that could drop down? And now and then the thing about, okay, a giant squid today is 70 feet. That's a giant squid. 70 feet, somewhere like that. That's a giant squid. Uh, the largest squids are big enough to kill whales. So they kill sperm whales. So that gives you an idea of how big a giant squid is in this life. And they're called Architeuthis. So an Architeuthis is a giant squid that eats whales, okay? About 70 feet. And you hardly ever see them because they're deep sea divers, all right? And they love to stay in the deep sea and feed, all right? So in Watchmen, what they had there didn't even look like a squid. This was not an Architeuthis that they had. This looked like a giant octopus. And I forgot the scientific name for octopus, but it looked like an amalgamation of the two. But you didn't see the same tentacles you seen on a squid as you saw on whatever Adrian dropped on top of 3 million people. Now, in the blast area, all you heard was boom, and then you seen all these people who were dead. But you saw whole bodies, and then you saw the squid that was on top of a building, and you saw destruction. But the people who died that were in that area, Looking Glass was there too, but he was protected because he was far away and he was in another building. And when he came out, he seen all these people dead. But he saw them, all their bodies were still intact. He just saw them laid down. He saw some people were still up and walking in a daze. But the way they died you would not think like something giant fell out of the sky and hit a bunch of buildings at. Okay, so Adrian who released the giant squid, said that. So he gave you a measurement. What he did, he gave you a measurement of space and time on how far the squids drop. So he gave you a measurement. He said they drop so far, so they're so far up in the sky that not even like meteorologists and satellites. And he said they can't even tell where it's coming from. So this thing is pretty much in space where this door is where he released the stuff from. Now he's on the planet in Antarctica. So what he has is a door that he releases. The squids drop into this door like this, but they're dropping into this door and coming out of a door pretty much in space, and then dropping from there, and the gravity is taking it from there, and then boom, and you're coming down. So you drop an animal, 40-ton animal, 5 miles basically, from 5 miles from here to there, 5 miles or more, and boom, centrifugal force speed. You guys who are scientists, you do the rest. Boom, it hits. This creature isn't splattered all over the place. It kills 3 million people, but it doesn't seem like it killed 3 million people. It just seemed like the blast radius would be a lot bigger. There would be a lot more carnage, and the squid was all intact when you saw it. So like I said, when it comes to writing, I mean, I know they did that just to prove this is the squid. This is what it looked like, but I was thinking there could have been a little bit more effort into, just a little bit more graphic effort into the damage of the squid and what it actually did. I'm just saying that. That's just me. But hey, budget, you're only on HBO, blah, 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 whatever. But nonetheless, Looking Glass was there when it happened, and he walks outside, naked as a jaybird, and goes, what happened? And so this is what makes him think he needs this tin foil and stuff over his head, because the blast radius also had a psychic blast radius. So there are people who were miles away who were in the psychic blast, and they think that their minds are messed up. And where they get that from is 9/11. They even mentioned it they called it 9/2, like 9/11/2. So there are people today who are still suffering from 9/11. God help those people, because that's some pretty graphic stuff to see. So they were using the same thing, and they were using focus groups, and come on in and talk to us about your experience, and hopefully you can get some help. So that's where all that was coming from, and I get that. And then eventually they told Looking Glass, they told him, well, they revealed to him, or Adrian revealed to him, how it didn't come from another dimension. See, they thought that the mental blast area, the damage was coming from another, because the squid came from another dimension. So every now and then there would be squids that fall out of the sky, and everyone would think these squids came from another dimension. And when they fell out of the sky, they all hit the ground. People had to just, get into their cars, and then the squids would disappear in seconds. But they all thought it was coming from another dimension, and it wasn't. It was coming from Adrian. Bunch of baby squids. So it's some good writing, but I still have some problems with it. But I'm gonna have to write something. I'm gonna have to figure out. I'm gonna have to get my Issa Rae on and just start writing something. I don't know how to animate or nothing like that. I know how to draw, but the one book I wrote, I'm gonna have to get that book up and running, because I wrote it. I put it out there. It's called The Sword King. Nobody ever read it, but that's my fault, because I haven't really promoted it that hard. I thought somebody would stumble upon it But people were going, well, where can I pick it up? I'm like Lulu.com. They would go look at it, but they would never buy it. It'd be like the book is $10. It's a novella. It's 66 pages. It's $10. It's not, you know, no big deal. I'm a terrible writer grammatically. I have terrible grammar, so yeah, there's that. But if you just use your imagination, and I mean, it'll take you to. I created a whole different planet, is what I did, and I created all these species, and along with human species, I guess. But humans aren't the dominant species to this world that I created. They're not the dominant species. They're actually, well, there's no dominant species. There's not one, and I made it to where in some parts of, like, I have a like swamplands. I have an area of swamplands that are the swamplands are not like you can just walk into them. No person, no human, and or other beings, they just can't walk into the swamplands. Not to mention the swamplands are all underground. So in order to get there, you have to go through, certain passages to get there, but you can't breathe the air. So unless you're invited there by somebody who already is from there and they tell you how to survive in there, you're gonna go down there and die. And that's just that. And it's meant like that to keep an ecosystem that is fair to the beings that live there. So no one can just walk in there and destroy it. And the creatures that live in this system, they're a lot like dinosaurs and bugs and stuff like that. But the thing about it is, whenever they're born, they don't stick to their own kind. They naturally are born with signatures or numbers, as you can say, on them somewhere, and that number forms a group. So there could be a group of 10, group of 100. Uh, and once they get to a certain age, they grow up in that group. You know what I'm saying? And the mother doesn't, try to stop that. It's just that you're born this type of creature. You're also, you grow up with this type of creature. You don't stick to your own. You're immediately born, and then boom, you belong to a group, this group right here, and all of you are different, and none of you, and all of you are different, and it could be a bunch of predators, but none of you try to eat each other. Like, that doesn't happen. You grow up as a group, and you have a purpose as a group for whatever it is. And one of the groups, and one of the most popular group, is called the 629s, and that's because of the numbers that they have on them. Hey, what's going on? I'm good, sis. That's because the 629s, uh, you know, um, their their numbers in indicating something on them. I haven't figured it all out yet, but that's how they came out. And the leader of the swamp area is in the 629s, and basically not everything that lives in a swampland can also venture out of the swampland. They can't just go and breathe fresh air. It just doesn't work like that. And this is because some of them are highly dangerous. So if they pour it out into a fresh air area, they would probably devour, everything in it, or even the air itself. So it just doesn't work like that. It's just like Chernobyl right now. You can't walk into Chernobyl and live. You just can't. You won't survive. If you try to walk into Chernobyl right now without a mask and without protective gear, you may walk out of there, but in about a year or two, you're going to just fall over and die. Why? Radiation. So it just doesn't work like that. Yeah, I just want to talk about that. If you guys like this kind of video, even though they're long winded, if you guys like this kind of video, I'll do more where I watch a series and then I'll talk about the series and talk about the effect of the series. What I mean effect is, I mean how the series is can be perceived. How you can look at it and go, I accept this or I don't accept it. And you don't accept it for what reason? You know, you might be offended by it. Like I'm offended by Watchmen, but I'm not offended to where I can't digest it. I'm expecting a package today. I'm offended to the point where I think it should have been written better for my people. It should have been. It should have been written to where. It should have been written to where, with all the events that they presented, we should have looked a lot stronger than we were. Hold on a second, guys. We should have looked a lot stronger. Now I'll tell you what it did do. The guy who did play Dr. Manhattan, I was like, bro, I got to start going back to the gym. That brother encouraged me. Big up to that brother, because he made me want to start working out and losing weight. And I need to lose weight anyway because of some of the stuff I'm trying to do. I was warned that I can't do it unless I lose weight. I am overweight. My face shouldn't be this fat. Should be narrow. Anyways, see you guys are gone. Thanks for stopping by. Been on a hot streak with topics. Bro, keep it up. Oh, thanks. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you. Oh, somebody's still here. Okay, so anyway, so the guy who played Dr. Manhattan, I did enjoy his Dr. Manhattan-ness. His calm demeanor. You know what I'm saying? The way he was, it wasn't even theatrical. It wasn't, you know, Yul Brynner type of, you know what I'm saying? Marlon Brando. It was very stoic type of apathetic. The way he spoke, of course, you know, showing very little flexion in your voice and that type of thing. Like, I enjoyed how much practice he put into being Dr. Manhattan. I liked him better than the first guy who played Dr. Manhattan. Not to take anything from the first guy who played Dr. Manhattan, but I just enjoyed watching him and saying, this is how somebody who had that much ability, that much power, and pretty much is apathetic to a lot of humanity, this is how they would act. They would be almost like, who cares? Like, I have bigger things to, I mean, just put yourself in that position. If you had the power of Dr. Manhattan, would you spend your time on Earth? You wouldn't. You wouldn't. You would leave. Okay, just put it to you like this. If you had superpowers, My man Tone, stay strong, homie. My prediction still stands. Trump will remain in power, and chaos will follow. People are asleep thinking the election is. People are thinking this election, thinking this selection is real. You guys want to talk about Trump? If somebody else wants to talk about Trump, I will. But if not, I'll stick to the subject. So, if you guys want to talk about it, I'll talk about it. But if not, I'll just comment on it and go back to the reality of the Watchmen, which is just very interesting. Anyways, so we don't know what Trump's going to do. We just know what he's supposed to do, but we don't know what he's going to do. And he's got what, to the 26th or something like that. So we'll find out. What would you do if you had the power of a superhero? And not only a superhero, you were a omega level superhero. I just wanted to give you. Okay, no problem. I don't mind talking about a subject. But what would you do if you were an omega level superhero and everybody knew not only who you were, but what you can do? You know what would happen? Like in Watchmen, they had a lot of people who were praying to him and who were calling him. They thought they could call him to help them with whatever the issue was. They treated him like he was a god, which is what would happen if you had godlike powers. I mean, they would, hey, can you come over here and help me with this? Hey, this happened over here. Hey, can you do something about this? This will be a constant. There's over 7 billion people on the planet. So you would have to be everywhere at once in order for you to help anyone. And it would be a constant. It's not like your problems today go away and then you don't have problems tomorrow. You would be constantly, bugged by people all the time. The only way you get any peace and quiet is if you would act like you did not exist, hide yourself in another body or just leave. But if you had all those powers, would you save humanity from itself? Because Dr. Manhattan tried that, and he still got, kicked in the ass. GIs go to war and come home and get spit on. This is a real thing. I, signed up for the military to fight for my country, and this country still hates me. This is true. This country does not like me. Black and white people. I don't just look at white people and say, oh, you're racist. Black people are racist against their own, too. It's just food for thought. It's food for thought. This country it will eat itself alive. It'll destroy itself before anyone is powerful enough to come and destroy it. There is no one country that can come into America and destroy it. Not one. Mother Russia can't come here and destroy it. Not by themselves. They'll need a lot of help. Even if they took down the presidencies. Just nullified them. It wouldn't matter. There's too many protocols setting, where, okay, this person's not the president, now this person is. Okay, that person's the Secretary of Defense. And, go through the whole cabinet. You know what I'm saying? So, there's no one country that can just come in and just, obliterate America. It's just not going to happen. However, a group of countries can come in and, if we're not unified, then they can take us out. It'd still be a hard way to go because there's a lot of people that live here. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and go. You guys, there's only one person on. Thank you for listening. And God bless. And take it easy, guys. Thanks for stopping by. Peace.